Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Dungeons and Dopamine. Hello, welcome to episode 93 of Dungeons and Dopamine. I feel like our timing was off.
A little bit.
It's okay. We're virtual again. I'm Jess.
We're doing great at this.
I'm
Bree.
And we're doing great at this.
We are.
So we get 93 episodes is a lot.
I'm still amazed every week that it just keeps going up.
And we keep
understand.
We keep talking.
I've never done anything for 93 times in a row.
I've never
ever
committed. And we have not missed a single week.
None. That's amazing.
I edited not during my surgery. That would have been amazing.
That would have been incredible. You should have live streamed it.
Wait, Doc.
Now that we're so good at Twitch and Discord.
Yeah, we're professional streamers. We did it for a week.
Mm-hmm. We're going to stream everything.
Everything.
Surgeries.
Actually, we're technically just recording right now, but we could live stream a recording sometime if it was something that people want.
We should. Ooh, like our 100th episode.
Oh, yeah.
That
Which is only 7 away.
That seems quick.
That seems too soon.
What?
What are we
I'm
talking
not ready.
about for 100? Huh. Oh, I hit my mic. It's out of the way now. Let's keep my hands to myself.
The other nice part about streaming is you can see how often Jessica moved her hands around.
And turns red. And possibly does that thing where I start laughing really hard and then immediately stop to move on to my next thought.
And done.
Because, okay, look. We all know I love Brie, obviously, or why would I have done this 93 times unless this is a plot to kill her? But I don't know why I mentioned that.
that just came up naturally.
That was
totally normal.
Yeah.
People do that all the time.
All the time. I'm trying to scoot out of the camera, but I'm too stuck here to go. I lost my train of thought. I love you. Yes.
You love me.
Yes. So I obviously think you're funny, and we've done this for so many years now. Not just the podcast, but this, like, friendship thing. And life. And I still do it to you, where I'm like, ha 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 ha. Okay, let's talk. And so it will prove to anyone who thinks that I'm a jerk that I might be still, but at least not for this.
No, it's just a thing she does to everyone. She does it to Ryan too.
Probably my kid too.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm scarring her. Yeah, my mom used to pretend everything I said was funny, and then she'd stop laughing.
So I obviously not funny ever.
So, question for you. This is so off, like, anything you would have guessed that I was going to talk about. This is completely not it.
Oh boy.
Well, I guess let me lead in. First, what do you think male-female friendships? Do you think you can be platonic friends with the other sex?
Yeah.
I
absolutely
100% agree. I see absolutely no problem with it. You know, as long as you and your partner have, like, those, like, I'm very uncomfortable if you lick their face or whatever.
Right. Boundaries and
yeah. And, you know, open communication, whatever. So, okay, we're leading in. What do you think if there is that friendship? So, like, let me make it hypothetical. So if you had a guy friend, we'll call him Bernard. If you and Bernard were friends through work, and Zach didn't really know him, maybe met him a couple times, and you and Bernard became very good friends, how do you feel, or what do you think? I'm trying to think of how to ask this. Obviously, it's going very slowly. What do you think if Bernard started telling you about his relationship and the struggles he faces within his relationship? And it's more of, well, I guess there could be different scenarios. It could just be like, literally, it's really tough to be with my partner. Just anybody. It's just tough. Life is tough. Or specifically degrading their partner and talking about the reasons why they aren't a good partner.
I think that's a really important distinction.
Yes.
Like, or even, is it venting? Like, they had an argument and he just wants to like vent and talk about it and then moves on. Is it often? Is it like every time we hang out? Does it be, especially being ADHD, like I feel like I'm really in tune to like the empathy of a situation.
Yes.
So how do I feel when he's having these conversations? Does it feel like he's leading towards something? Does it feel like he's comparing her to me or comparing her to someone else?
Does he say,
does it feel
like she makes these decisions and I hate that? I bet you would never.
Right. Or, and is he like overreacting about dumb stuff or weird about things like, oh, I like that dress that you wore. My wife would never wear that.
Oh
for
gosh,
me.
yes.
Or, like, it's about the dynamics on how he presents it.
I can agree with that. I think it's very important. Like, does this happen in your marriage? Because I've seen that you're like really happy, or you seem really happy. Does your partner do this? Or you're right. The distinction is big. I was just...
Or we're struggling on this. What do you guys...
Yeah.
Is it a help us, or is it a help me get out of here, or help, or agree with me and think she's the devil? Like, right. How is the picture being painted?
And why? What is the point of bringing this up? Are we in a friendship that... Like, for me... there's almost nothing I couldn't text you. I know you're not the other gender, but there's nothing I would feel weird texting you. There's just nothing that I wouldn't really tell you. But
yeah,
maybe a very good friend of mine, Rob, maybe I wouldn't text him some of the things I text you. Or, just fill in the blank with a friend. And there's different levels I'm comfortable with sharing, or that I feel like is appropriate to share.
Yeah. Well, and like, this has always been a hard and fast rule with my marriage, is I don't talk negatively about Zach to anybody that I know will judge him based on a couple stories. Like, I will tell you if Zach and I get in a fight, especially if it's about something stupid, because I just need to vent. And I know that you're going to listen to me vent, and you're going to possibly tell me I'm wrong, or tell me that I'm right, which is probably what you'll do, because
more than likely, because usually, of course, you are.
Right? But you're not going to hold that against Zach next time you see him.
Right.
You're not going to automatically put it in your brain that he's a bad guy, or he's a bad partner, or that I need to leave him.
There's a good chance I'm not even going to bring it up to him because I knew you were venting, and it's probably over. And I don't want to stir it up again.
Right. Whereas, like, I would never go to a male friend of mine and vent about those things, because number one, I don't want them to think that I'm complaining about my husband because I want them.
Right.
But also because I don't want that person to see Zach in that way. I don't want them to go hang out next time and be like, oh, yeah, Zach's great, but he said that really rude thing to Brienne that one time. It's just not necessary.
Yes. And also, I really like if I make friends with someone of the opposite sex, I don't leave my house anymore. So I don't make friends anymore. But
just if strangers, but he does leave her house.
Okay, I make friends with everyone when I leave my house. It's very exhausting.
That's why she can't leave her house.
That's why I have to stay in. But no, I think, like, I want anyone that I become friends with to be friends with Ryan, because then we can do couple stuff or family stuff, like go to New York together.
Right. Or play D&D.
Yes, exactly. I feel uncomfortable when others do that. It's awkward. I don't want to hear, especially if their significant other is actually more of my friend than, like, in our case, if you talk bad about Zach, I'm like, stop, that's my bro. He's my homie.
Sometimes I like him more than you.
He's got beautiful eyes, okay? It's hard not to. You
true.
have funny lips.
He's just better than you in some ways, okay?
Leave it to us to turn that into that. Oh, okay. My day sucked.
Yes, it
Not
did.
this part. This has been fun. I like you.
This is necessary.
Not as much as
Thank
Zach,
you.
but
Fair.
he can sing songs to me too, so play guitar. He never has, but he could.
But he could.
Just that
He said he was
knowledge.
gonna loudly play guitar in the basement the whole time I was trying to record.
Like, you can bring that upstairs. Anyway, sorry. Today sucked. Yesterday sucked. Friday sucked. It's been a lot of sucking.
Not the good kind.
Not the good kind. And so I posted a post on Facebook that just said, just be nice. That's all. Just be
I saw
nice.
that.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. And then I started thinking about it, and like, it's so easy to think, oh yeah, I'm gonna be nice. And then the moment you get flustered or afraid of something, to immediately stop and disengage from niceness.
Yeah. It's like it's some people's defense mechanism.
Yeah. And I get it. Fear can make you irrational, so you go to anger, and I try to understand. It just try to be nice. The person on the other line or on the end of that email probably just got yelled at by everyone else for the same thing that they didn't do. It wasn't their fault.
And recently had surgery. It doesn't feel very
Seriously. I don't have a gallbladder anymore.
Take it easy on me.
Easy. I did want to. I feel like I have something in my eye.
I'm so upset by how evil people are that I'm crying.
Just be nice.
This is your Britney breakdown moment.
Dungeons and Dopamine gets real. I prefer Dungeons and Dopamine just butts.
That's really going to be our moneymaker there.
I think so. The moneymaker is the moneymaker. I've entirely lost my train of thought. It's all I'm thinking about now is
This whole
butts.
episode is also off the rails.
And it can't even be better than butts because we've already been better than butts. I want to
You
talk
look so
about a video game.
right now.
I'm full of rage. If I stand up and storm off, it will be just butts.
Sad.
Let's get serious. This is a serious
All right.
topic.
Very serious.
I am so excited about this topic. I am also
I
shocked.
bet nobody can guess what it's about.
No. Mm-mm. I am shocked that it took me this long to get to this point. Get comfortable.
Let me lean
You
back
suddenly see me
here.
pull
in
up
my
the game on the
forest.
screen. That's all you see. I'm going to play the game for you through it. Takes a good 75
80
hours to get through the game.
Perfect.
Mhm.
I've got time.
Probably longer because you're here and I won't be serious at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, Baldur's Gate, a video game. Is it the best
Yes.
video game ever made? Maybe. Anyway, none of that was in my notes. It's just me. It's improv. Let's
Thank you.
Yeah, I did this for you. Remember that while we go through this. So, Baldur's Gate released in August of 2023. It is an RPG, which is a role-playing game. You act as your character, you make choices, you walk through the game, and it is based very heavily on Dungeons and Dragons. It is the third... Sorry?
Ta-da.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. I saw your mouth move, but I think my talking canceled out your talking.
And you can't read my lips, so.
Yeah, funny lips. I can't read them. You all knew this was coming. I have not stopped talking about this since I started playing it in November. And I won't stop talking about it until I'm done playing it. Never. Because I still play Skyrim. I want to give you a real quick rundown of the game. I use quick as a general term.
This is a special 3-hour episode.
Yay! Then after you can watch me play. So, do you know what a mind flayer is in the Dungeons and Dragons universe? Perfect. Yes. I also may say Dungeons and Dopamine because I'm so used to saying it that instead of Dungeons and Dragons, sometimes I mess it up. So
it just falls out.
Bear with me. So the game is about your character and many other characters being kidnapped by mind flayers. They're also called illithids. They're icky. They have tentacles and they eat brains. This was the right episode to record. Oh,
thank you for that.
I got you. We'll cut that out for the promo. Your character watches an amazing cinematic. It looks real. It's incredible. Of a Githyanki woman. Githyanki is a race. This is kind of rude, almost like toad-like looking. Very small noses and kind of reptilian eyes with sort of reptilian skin, big ears. It's very D&D. And you watch this woman as a mind flayer goes and grabs a creepy looking worm and infects this woman with the worm by it digging through her eye. I swear on my life it's not as gory and gross as it sounds. It is gross because it's supposed to be gross, but it's not as terrible as you think. You then watch the illithid get another worm and come toward you. And one of the last things you see is its like little stabby mouth go and then it attacks you.
Can you repeat that, please? Thank you.
I should have drawn on my hands.
That would have been the best surprise ever.
I have puppets. I totally could have done that. Stickers, something. So the ship gets attacked. In the meantime, between these two things happening, you create your character, which is really cool. We'll go into that later. Then the ship gets attacked by dragons, which is Baldur. And the ship ends up... Yes, I said it. The ship ends up going into Avernus, which in D&D is a version of the Hells. Dragons and demons and all sorts of things start attacking the ship. The ship goes out of control. You end up out of your captivity pod thing. You start meeting allies. The cool thing about the plot is that these allies have incredibly fleshed out backgrounds and backstories, which is unusual for, I don't want to say most games, but you get a little background and then it's done. These, like, they make you feel things. A plethora of them. We'll get into
real
it.
Humans, okay.
It reminds you that I have a heart. The ship ends up back in the regular plane of existence, and you crash land in Faerun, which is where all of Baldur's Gate's games, there are 3 of them, are kind of played out. You start exploring. The world is completely free. You can go anywhere that they have mapped out at any time. You start meeting characters, you start getting your companions, you camp overnight, which restores your, so that's a long rest, basically, which is where you get a lot of your story. They have these really great cinematic moments, and then you figure out all together that the worm in your brain will turn you into a mind flayer eventually. Yay! So you don't want that to happen. And
that's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. As a group, decide you're going to work together and try and figure out, 1, why you haven't changed yet, because you should be a mind flayer by now. And 2, since you haven't changed, how can you get this little mofo out of your head and live the rest of your life?
Right.
You start
like freely
Yeah. So you start freely exploring Faerun. There is so much to this game. So as you and your companions decide you're going to explore, as I said, the world is open. You can go everywhere. You have very general guidelines. You have a basic idea of what you're doing. You're trying to get this worm out of your heads. You're trying to find a healer. You're trying to find someone who knows something and can help you. But you can do this in so many ways. And in the meantime, you're hearing your companions banter with you and with each other as you wander through the game. During your long rests, you get these scenes where you're learning about your companions. And just as a note, because it is D&D based, each fight is turn-based. So you're playing similar to the old Zelda games. So you're going to stop the clock, and each player is going to take their turn. It is, as I said, like the old Zelda games, or like you're sitting around a D&D table rolling your dice. Your outcomes on almost everything is dice-based. The only thing lacking
for a video.
What's that?
That's huge for a video game. There's got to be just infinite possibilities programmed.
I can tell you how many possibilities there are later on today.
So you can.
I got all this. I have some statistics for you. Anyway, your strikes, if you're successful, or your decision, if you walked up to a character and you're trying to deceive them, you're trying to lie to them about something, it is based on the roll of your dice. So how you build your character depends on how successful you are going to be in some of these situations. And it is a blast. It is also very frustrating. I want to sort of explain the depth of some of these conversations. I don't want to spoil anything for people who are either playing through and haven't finished, or want to play through, or just have played through but haven't had this specific interaction before.
Right.
So I want to tell you about a dog in the game. He's the most important character in the entire game. His name is Scratch, obviously. And he is a white German Shepherd. He's the best boy. When you come upon Scratch, you notice that he is with a human who is laying on the ground. And you approach Scratch, and there are already, just approaching him, so many different ways this conversation can go. If you have a spell of animal speaking, or a potion of animal speaking, or if you're a druid, you can approach Scratch and speak to him. And when you speak to him, you notice that the man he's with is dead. Scratch will growl at you and tell you to back off. And you don't have to. You do have to, because it is important to have Scratch in this game. You can attack Scratch, which,
don't do that.
Who would do that?
Wrong decision.
Ew. Anyway.
No friend of ours.
You can attack Scratch. You can try to convince Scratch that the man is dead and that he should come back to your camp. You can also, once you decide you're going to convince Scratch to come back to your camp, or that you need to show him that this man is dead, you can scare Scratch, because there's an option to yell at the dead man to show Scratch that he's dead. And that scares Scratch, and he won't always come to your camp because of that. So,
and then your whole game is ruined.
Exactly. You have to start over. That's the rule. That's how it goes. So you've already hit all of these options. You can, later on, if you go back to camp for a long rest, Scratch will show up if you've made all the correct choices, and he stays at your camp with you. From then on, Scratch will bring you his ball, and you can throw it for him. Scratch will come up to you, and you can pet him, and he wags his tail. He's super happy. You can get another companion that Scratch will it's another animal companion, and Scratch will kind of treat him like a big brother.
Aww.
And you can, occasionally you'll come back to camp or wake up in the morning, and Scratch will have a present for you. And it will be like a bone or a potion or a fishing rod. And you'll say, "What do you have there, Scratch?" And he says, "I don't know. I just thought of you when I saw it." And then you have to pet Scratch, because he's the best boy.
Well, yeah, because he's a good boy.
But there's also the option that you can approach Scratch without being able to speak to him with an animal handling type of thing. And that, I should say, speak with animals kind of thing. But you can approach with animal handling and convince him without words that he's safe with you and he can follow you back. You can scare him. You can attack him. Just this very small, and I'm going to say inconsequential part of the game, and you already have 30 different options in front of you.
Right. that can change how your game reacts
Absolutely.
3 years down the road, because you might not have Scratch, or you do have Scratch.
You can also summon Scratch in fights and stuff like that. And you can mod Scratch so that he can't die, which is important. So, just as a really small example of how you can do this, the story obviously progresses, and you can gain and lose your companions. You can completely miss companions or kill companions. You can romance companions, which
Jessica's favorite part.
It's my favorite part. I've played 3 times and romanced 2 different characters. 3 technically. Anyway, I don't want to.
Jessica really gets around.
I do. My character does. I don't want to spoil the plot too much, but I just want to show how people can spend so much time on this game. I spoke with someone the other day who has spent 800 hours on this game. I have been playing since November and have over 200 hours into it. I have a life.
Holy cow.
I'm a mom. I work full time.
Right. You have a podcast.
I have a podcast, but also goes to show you that you can play this story over and over again, but it will not be the same story. It's not like picking up Mario. You know what happens in Mario. You know what happens at the end of Mario.
Even if I started today and started playing it, I would end up with an entirely different storyline than what you have played so far.
Even if you make the same choices.
Except for getting Scratch, because that
obviously
would be...
That is what everyone needs to do. But yes, you would get it totally different, and even if you made the same choices, because your dice roll might not have worked.
Right.
You might have rolled a natural 1, whereas I rolled a natural 20, so I did it. Or you might have chosen a different romance character. It's amazing. That's probably a video game.
Would definitely choose a different romance character than you.
I know exactly who you... Actually, I'm struggling between 2 of them, but yeah, I know exactly. There's no redheads.
I don't want to play that. I only play if there's redheads.
Exactly. So I've played about 3 times. I played 2 times entirely through. I am playing again. And I started a game where I was going to be an evil character, and it turns out I'm not. So I stopped playing and started a whole new game. One of the choices
you were like, I'll find joy in this. Except now I don't.
These are pixelated characters. Why do I care that I just made them sad? Restart.
This is hard.
Just as a quick example, the first time I played, Ryan and I played together co-op on the same game. There's an inn in the game, and it's a big story event place. And when we went there, something happened and everyone in the inn died. We lost several characters in the game that had little bitty story points. Nothing impacting the final end of the game. And the second time I played through, it was just me. Mm-hmm. I avoided losing everyone in the inn, gained all those story plots back, gained a whole nother companion, and was able to help my other companion that I couldn't help in the first game. So different. And we were playing the same exact game. Now that I've kind of waxed poetically about the game and its plot and told you a little bit about it, I want to tell you how Baldur's Gate has changed gaming forever, and in the best way possible. I have a short quote from videogamer.com, and they said, Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3 released to a massive acclaim as not only one of the best RPGs ever made, but also as a game that didn't attempt to nickel and dime players with paid DLC and swaths of microtransactions. Following the release of EA's Dragon Age, different game, it's a Dragon Age the Veilguard, the series creator David Gator has asked the publisher to follow the example led by Larian for its future RPG releases. Larian Studios has made such an impact that other studios are being asked by professionals in the game of video games, not in that Larian's game, to do what they're doing. That's big.
That's amazing.
That's big. Yeah.
So especially with all the drama and talk about the microtransactions and having to buy the next level of these video games.
Or buy yourself the ability to be better. But why? Why do people care so much about this game? And I've obviously spoiled so much of this already because I'm so enthusiastic about it. But freedom is one of them. The game is difficult to impossible to break. You can kill your companions. You can never meet them. You can side with the bad guys. And the game still keeps going. It just tweaks a little and shifts. Oh, it's insane to me.
Just the coding and the thought that had to go into something with that many different options.
Yes. And obviously, along with freedom comes choices. As I've already mentioned, nearly every dialogue interaction has several choices on how you can react. And not only that, but this changes based on your relationship with the character. Does the character you're speaking to love you because you've been romancing them? Have you impressed them? The dialogue might offer you flirty options. Have you made all the wrong choices? You're probably getting snark from your characters if they haven't left you already. I have lost the same companion 2 times because I keep accidentally making the wrong choices for her in a certain spot in the game. And
she's like, screw you.
She is exactly like that. And you never see her again in the game. Customization. So this is another thing that I think ties in with microtransactions and also makes that little Sims player in my heart so happy. I can choose what my character looks like. That's a very common thing to do. I can choose their race. So I can choose to be a dragonborn and look like a dragon. But it doesn't end there. You can choose their hairstyles, colors, eye colors, piercings, their tattoos, their freckles. They offer vitiligo as an option for characters.
Oh,
it's
that's
incredible.
Cool.
You can make them almost anything. And then it doesn't end there because once you're in the game, you can change their clothes. You can buy clothes from shops. You can buy dye from shops. And you can dye their hats and dye their clothes. It's just available to you. And none of it is microtransaction. You don't have to pay 100 gold for the pretty horse or whatever.
Right.
And then mods. Mods are something in a video game that you can add to your game that changes something about the game. And there are mods for everything, not just in Baldur's Gate.
Cheat codes?
Yes, I always call them my cheats. But sometimes they're literally just like people have mods for Baldur's Gate where you can get different clothing or different hair. Someone has created a mod to add different tiefling horns so that you can vary your tiefling even more, which by the way, they offer naturally like 7 or 8 different options already. So these are just people being creative and doing this. Sometimes game producers have problems with mods because one, they want to sell stuff, microtransaction you. Mm-hmm. They don't want you to be able to go get 10 more different kinds of tiefling horns because they could sell you tiefling horns.
Right. Or even give you the ability to make them because then you won't buy the ones that are available.
Exactly. But Larian said, let's mod this baby up. They have made it so easy that they offer a mods selection in your menu. And you can go and see people's mods and add them to your game with the literal check of a button.
Like how you usually have to like jailbreak it or break in a back end and type a code in and download this shifty file that maybe somebody can be trusted and hope that it doesn't
no.
virus your whole game.
We're going to do this for you guys. And
we'll just put it right here.
Yep. And it also, there are other ones that you can like, it's a little bit more complicated to add them. But Larian said, let's do this. This makes our game cooler. And they also have, it's so open, I guess let me rephrase it like this. It's so open that people have added entire storylines of mods. There is one that people are looking forward to coming out soon that has a whole storyline that adds a new area and character dialogue. I don't know how.
Really?
But it's incredible. The last point about why Larian has made just a big difference is evolution. They have updated their game 7 times with really big patches. They have fixed things, of course. When Skyrim first released on PlayStation, when you walked into the water, the game froze. There were literal levels that you had to go into the water to beat them. Larian fixed some of that kind of stuff, just those things that happen when you release a video game and everyone's trying to break it on purpose and all that kind of stuff. So they fixed those. They've also added a ton of stuff. They have a mod coming out soon, or not a mod, sorry, rewind that. A patch coming out soon, patch 8, is adding 8 more playable classes to the game.
What?
Their last patch, they added a whole storyline with an original character that you can play as called the Dark Urge. It's cool.
That sounds amazing.
They clearly love their game. I clearly love their game. Very few. I want to wrap up. I know that I took a long time to talk about this. I just get so excited about it. The game has over 70,000 pathways that can determine the ending that you get. 93% of players have decided on a custom character, including the Dark Urge that I just talked about. Players have spent a combined 88 years in character creation alone. Just character creation.
When you mentioned that, like, you create a whole character and that you could get that into the changes, I was like, oh, that's where I would be stuck. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, okay, I'll build a character, and then 4 days later, I'd be like, well, but what tattoos do I want?
You have to learn to push the randomize and then accept button, and done. The most popular race in the game is half elf, followed by human and elf. Paladin, shockingly, is the most popular class, followed by sorcerer and warlock. Yeah, weird, right? These are fun facts, but they might get a little bit more into if you've played the game. 1,223,305 playthroughs have ended in defeat. 141,660 players have beat honor mode, which is the hardest way you can play the game. I have beat...
Not very many.
Easy. No. This was the 1 year. I guess I should say that too. This is the 1 year after launch point. But I don't think we're that different at this point.
Well, and that would only be like last summer.
Right. Yeah. Over 75 million companion kisses have been done.
Most by Jessica.
Oh. This is a very important one. Scratch was petted over 120 million times, the least he deserves for such perfect fetch.
Because he's a good boy.
He's the best boy. There is an owlbear cub that you can befriend. He has been petted over 41 million times. And there is an angry, hairless cat that does not want to be petted. And 141,660 players have tried to pet her. Or him. 658,000 players had intimacy with one of the characters from the game named Halson. He's a druid.
I would have chosen him.
You would choose him. You also hit a point in the game where you can make a very questionable choice about sleeping with an illithid, and 1.1 million players have done so. 63% of them choose his human form. The other 37% are just down DTF and ready to get funky.
So would it be like the worm scary thing then?
The tentacled man. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. This is the tentacle.
His mouth opens like this. And he eats breath.
Got it. Not my first choice, I'll be honest.
Oh, okay. So right now in life, things can suck. It looks a little drab out there. If you need a good escape, Baldur's Gate is a really fun thing to do. You do not have to get salacious, as much as I'm joking about it. You can just play it straight, no romance, no nothing. You can also
but then you'll be bored.
Right? Don't talk to me about it. You can also turn off nudity. So if you want to play and your kids come in the room and stuff like that, it is a really nice option. But if you just need an escape or you need a nice shiny new hyperfixation, check it out. It's fun. If you aren't into playing video games but you want to see this incredible story, you can watch me Twitch. That's too close together. It's what letter?
It's not my fault.
Anyway, play Baldur's Gate. It's
that was awesome.
So much fun.
I'm ready to go play. So, do you dream about Baldur's Gate yet?
I have.
Just know that you have.
Yeah.
You might be playing a lot of it.
Maybe.
Sorry, Mom. Last week. All right. So I'm just going to gloss on past that and finish up talking about dreams.
As you slide into the room.
This quickly is becoming a Dungeons and Dopamine After Dark episode.
It's not even just butts.
So, finishing up my dreams topic, this week I'm going to talk about kind of the more like woo-woo side of things, or the psychology side, the philosophical side. I'm going to start with just different types of dreams. So, the most obviously a normal dream is just you go to sleep and a dream plays and you don't have any control over it, and sometimes it might remind you of something that happened that day or something that you're worried about, but typically we have no control, and sometimes they get wild and we don't even know where it came from. But some people are able to have lucid dreams, and this is at the very basic level just realizing that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. So for most people, this just ends up like you're in an awful situation in your dream or something crazy is happening, and all of a sudden you go, oh, this is a dream. And that's usually when people wake up. But some people, and especially this is actually something you can train, which is wild to me, but some people can actually stay asleep and then kind of manipulate their lucid dream. So they can, I had a friend that told me, like, once he realized he was dreaming, then he could control what he did in the dream. So like, oh, I'm dreaming, why don't I go for a fly and just like start flying?
Christine from And That's Why We Drink was training herself for a while to do so.
So there has been studies about lucid dreaming. And in 1975, a psychologist named Keith Hearn, which is not Kevin Hearn, my favorite author, but I was briefly very excited about. He actually was able to record a communication from a dreamer experiencing a lucid dream. So essentially, him and the test subject agreed ahead of time that if the test subject realized he was lucid dreaming, he would move his eyeballs in a certain way, and that can be tracked by the person observing the sleeping. Using that study, other psychologists were able to use that theory to do other things. So they were able to like map time during dreams. So essentially like, okay, when you're lucid dreaming, every minute or whatever, move your eyes or make this sign or something.
I think it's kind of creepy.
Right? It gets creepier.
Oh, good.
So they also compare the electrical activity of the brain while they're singing, awake and dreaming. So to compare like electrical activity in dreamland versus awake, and those were comparable during lucid dreaming. And they were also able to actually document communication between two dreamers. So I don't understand this explanation very well, but basically they had them hooked up to like the brain scan, EEG monitoring, and a website that was able to track their eye movements. And essentially the first person fell asleep, started dreaming, realized they were lucid dreaming, made the eye signal to tell people that they were lucid dreaming. And that was sent via the computer to the other person that was sleeping, who then received that stimulus or that knowledge that the other person was awake. And then they were able to not really communicate, but at least like send signals back and forth that they both knew that they were dreaming and dreaming at the same time.
Now that breaks my brain.
Wild to me.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to visit dreams. And this goes way past anything that can be scientifically proven. This is more like anecdotal stories on Reddit, because this gets into astral projection and like the real woo-woo hippy-dippy stuff. So you'd have to essentially know how to lucid dream. And then the thought is you can, whether you're meditating or actually sleeping and dreaming, you can project your spirit into somebody else's dream. And there are lots of stories on the internet of people that are able to do this. Some people say that they can even like go into their animals' dreams or their dogs' dreams. But they all caution that this is very dangerous, that when you astral project like that, your soul can get stuck or get lost and have a hard time returning to your body. Or it can get like demons can catch on to it and travel with you. So you have to be very careful about doing this sort of spiritual traveling. They also caution, number one, you want to make sure whoever you're visiting in Dreamland consents to you invading their dream.
I do not consent.
And also, exactly, like when you brought it up, you also want to be careful about who you allow to enter your dreams. So because you're dealing with, this, if you're going into somebody's dream, you're really going into like their innermost thoughts and everything that's going on. Not to mention, you can't control your dreams most of the time. And I have had some really wild dreams, that crazy situations or flying cars or whatever. Very interesting, non-scientific anecdotal stories about the dangers of invading dreams and being careful on who you consent to that, or who that you allow into your dreams.
This one's creepy.
Then we also have recurring dreams. So exactly what they sound like. These are dreams that reoccur every so often. These are
one of a talking dinosaur.
Do you? I was gonna ask.
It's a Jurassic Park dinosaur. The T-Rex specifically. I'm sorry.
Doesn't surprise me. Very instrumental. Very instrumental movie in our childhood. So these are usually stress-related or trauma-related dreams. Mine is always teeth. My teeth are always falling out, especially when I'm super stressed or super anxious about things. I'll have dreams that my teeth are falling out. But some people do have happy recurring dreams, or especially people that lucid dream often. They may often have the same recurring dream because it's something they can control and they're like something that they like to do. So there are people that are like, oh, I think I'll dream about going to the amusement park today. And they can just do that, which is insane to me. Then there's deja vu. And this is the feeling you get when you swear you've dreamt or experienced this exact moment prior. So whether it was something you dreamed or like a moment repeating itself, some people see this as like a sign that your life is on track, or a sign that you are on the right path because things are matching up the way they're supposed to. And then there's also premonition dreams, and this kind of goes with the dream visiting or the lucid dreaming. This is another thing that can't really be scientifically proven, but you can find lots of anecdotal stories. And honestly, if I had more time, I probably would do a whole episode just about like premonition dreams, because these are always wild to me. But this is just a dream that predicts a future event. Premonition dreams, these, like I said, they predict a future event. These are considered pretty supernatural. You usually see them in like fantasy books. There's a woman character usually that has premonition dreams and sees someone getting murdered and they have to solve the murder before it happens, or find the body where she had this premonition dream. But again, you can get on Reddit or wherever and find a ton of anecdotal stories about, somebody dreaming that their grandpa died and waking up and finding out that their grandpa died overnight. Nightmares are stressful or scary dreams, and these can be anything from the monster under the bed dreams to losing your job, or like me, your teeth falling out. We know that there's a correlation between nightmares and stress and anxiety, and that if you are going to bed upset or stressed out, that you are more likely to have nightmares. And this tends to change with age too. Nightmares when we are children are a lot different than the nightmares we have as adults. As a child, you're probably scared of, the scary movie that you watched that you shouldn't have, or spiders or something.
T-Rexes.
Yes, unless you've had an abnormally traumatic childhood that you have other nightmares about. It'll be something simple like that. Whereas adults, our nightmares are usually more like, I lost my job, or I was at work and the machine broke and there was a whole bunch of stuff piling up and I couldn't get to all of it. More emotionally devastating than being chased by a monster or a scary clown. And night terrors can also be paired with sleep paralysis, which we briefly covered earlier, which is the terrifying moment your brain kind of wakes up, but your body is still asleep. So you're unable to move your body. You feel like you're paralyzed, you can't move. And usually you're also still having some sort of dream or nightmare or night terror at the time. So a lot of people will wake up in this sleep paralysis state and see terrifying visions, or a monster in their room that's coming at them, or something that they can't get away from because their body is also paralyzed. It sounds like literally the worst thing that could ever happen.
I've read many stories about it, and the one that terrifies me the most is this guy who said he woke up all the time with it, and there was always a woman somewhere in his room, and she would come get in his face and scream.
Can you imagine? and your brain isn't even functioning enough to like go into the lucid dreaming where you're like, oh, this is all just a dream. Like, my body isn't paralyzed. I can move. No one's screaming in my face. You're just like full on in that moment, and there's nothing you can do about it. It sounds like literally the worst thing ever.
So I won't cover it because it's terrifying.
Right. And so then I want to just kind of touch on historical beliefs about dreams versus current beliefs. So dreams have been talked about, and even, back into cave days, people would draw drawings of them having dreams. Dreams have existed as long as human beings have existed and have been studied for a long time. But historically, people, especially like religious leaders or even story writers, dreams were historically represented as more of a big deal than they are now. So even in the Bible or any religious text, you hear a lot of, God came to them in a dream and told them to do this, to build an ark or write the commandments or whatever it is. Or even like the Greek gods, they'd have a dream that they were set on this certain path and they need to reach this goal or beat this thing. And it came to them in a dream. They were told in a dream. Visual art, written art, stories all depict these big moments in the lives of characters where they were told in a dream or had a dream that they had to go on and do something big. Whereas nowadays, we've kind of taken dreams and we just, like, now they're seen as just like a funny story or a silly thing you did, or like no big deal. If you went to the news tomorrow and you said, oh my God, I had this dream last night that God came to me and told me that I needed to build an ark, people would laugh at you. Be like, oh, it's just a dream, and we don't even know why we have dreams, and like, you probably just watched a movie about a boat and you really like animals, and so now you think that you have to do this. Whereas back in the day, it was like, oh, he had a vision, he had a moment with God, and he has to fulfill this quest. So I just think it's interesting how that changes and how prominence of dreams and the importance of dreams has changed, whether that's because of like what we know with science and knowing that, a dream is just like visions and hallucinations that your brain gives you at night, so instead of
wish your heart makes when you're fast asleep.
Exactly. And so going back to the religious leaders or the old historical significance of dreams, a lot of different stories talked about dream incubation, and this was back when even in some modern day religions, especially like native religions, where they go on a spiritual journey and they go into a tent and it's very hot and they wait and they see what sort of dreams they have. This is still used sometimes to like point people in a direction or help them decide what they're going to do with their lives. And this has been the case for millions of years. It used to be, there might even have been special rooms or religious temples that had sleeping arrangements where you would go and you would just try to have a dream about what the next step would be. And this even goes back to the Harvard study that I mentioned last week about meditating or thinking heavily on a problem that you're having before you go to bed. That's the same idea as this dream incubation from medieval times, where you're meditating and concentrating on the problem and hoping that when you go to sleep, your dream brain will help come up with the answer. So we talked about it in the Harvard study as like solving a math problem or a formula or dealing with an easy problem like that. But for years, people have been using this as a way to try to find the next step or solve a problem in their life that was more about, their family path. The last couple things I want to touch on is dream recall. So we did learn last week too that you remember dreams better if you wake up during the dream. Another way to train yourself to recall better is to keep a dream journal. So the minute you wake up, while things are still fresh, you write down your dream. And the more often you do that, the more likely you are to start remembering more and remembering longer. And then you can use your dream journal to look up dream interpretations. So this is the most... I'm going to start a business where I give you very poorly done dream interpretations.
No, they're going to be perfect. Totally
I'm going to be great. So I remember trying to get into this when I was in high school. I bought like a dream dictionary book. And I'm sure at that time it was me just trying to find some answers in, number one, a bunch of crazy vivid dreams that I was having, because that's what we did back then. But also, teenage years sucked. And trying to find some answers or make connections to things when you're that age makes sense to me. So for old time's sake, I'm pulling up dreamdictionary.org, which was the very first answer when I Googled dream interpretation websites. And I'm going to tell you a couple recurring dreams that I have and what their dream interpretation is. So I mentioned earlier that I have a lot of dreams that my teeth are falling out. So according to dreamdictionary.org, which I did already know this is actually a very common recurring dream, that your teeth are falling out. And it's either like they're like just falling randomly out of your mouth, or they might be like, in mine, they're usually like crumbling, like I'm trying to talk and like pieces of my teeth are just falling into my hand. And apparently this is a stress response dream. Surprise! It makes sense, especially if you're a teeth grinder, that you would have dreams that your teeth are falling out. If you are grinding your teeth while you're sleeping, that you would dream about this. But according to the website, number one, this is one of the most searched symbols on Google's search engine. And teeth dreams is one of the oldest translated known symbols, dating back as far as to ancient Egypt. Teeth dreams usually symbolize a sort of loss in our lives, or feeling insecure, weak, having poor communication, or feeling a loss of control in your life. Although Carl Jung, the major psychologist, says it can be a sign of major transition or rebirth taking place in your life. It's all your fault. I'm gonna have one tonight about my funny lips.
You're gonna be playing Baldur's Gate and your teeth are gonna fall out. I'm gonna be there like, just keep going. I don't play it with a controller. I play it on a keyboard, but it'll be shaped like a tooth.
So if you'd like to interpret your own dreams, you have to do it yourself.
Or just off stream.
Yes. Or you can contact me separately and I will interpret your dreams for you.
You have to contact us through Dungeons and Dopamine something, though. Do you want to see my picture? I added to the snake.
Did you add jazz instruments?
I forgot all about the jazz instrument.
That's not a jazz instrument.
It could be.
Is the snake swimming?
He's found a friend. It's a dragon that spits water. It's called a hose, but he's confused. This, despite the little blurb, whatever you want to call it, at the end, was a really great episode of Dungeons and Dopamine podcast.
It was. And you can listen to it anywhere you stream podcasts, and on YouTube and Twitch and Discord.
All of those places. Just look for us, Dungeons and Dopamine podcast. You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Dungeons and Dopamine. No, Dungeons Dopamine. No and, no space. Dungeons Dopamine.
You can Find us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. And all those other places we mentioned earlier.
Yes, Twitch and something with a D. Discord.
Dungeons.
Dungeons. Find us in every dungeon. You can reach out to us on all of those and at dungeonsdopamine@yahoo.com. Why is my arm out here? Do I do this all the time? Yes, you do.
Dungeons and Dopamine has been edited and published by Argyle Pigeon Productions.
Take my role very seriously as the pigeon.
She's the greatest pigeon.
I punched my mic for one final time. All right, everyone go play Baldur's Gate.
I like how you only did it at the beginning and the end this time.
Hey, it's
good. Okay, bye.
Good. Okay, love you, bye.